Nyoro's in the House, and also Igembe North Member of Parliament, and also Deputy Majority Whip Malcolm Maore, one of the longest serving MPs in the House. First elected back in 1992. Wow, you've been around for a minute.
Yes.
Karibuni sana waheshimiwa.
Asante.
Good to see you all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Let's have a nice candid conversation. No mudslinging, no low blows. Let's just have a conversation. So Mheshimiwa, let me go to you first, because Kirinyaga is not too far from Murang'a County. And the latest news, Kirinyaga County Governor Anne Waiguru has shifted, like the mountain, like the slopes of the mountain, she has shifted to UDA. What do you think prompted her?
Thank you very much, Jeff, for having us this evening with Mheshimiwa Malcolm Maore. As you rightly put it, it's really a privilege, because when Mheshimiwa Malcolm Maore joined Parliament in his first term, I was actually in class 7 in primary school. And therefore, agility and experience on one table is a great thing.
It's a good one.
Class 7.
Class 7.
Yes.
And on the issue of Governor Waiguru, as you know, Jeff, we are already in the transfer period in terms of the politics is concerned. And every politician has to look at their interest and the interest of the people they represent. But I want to tell you that in terms of UDA, you only just highlighted the issue of Anne Waiguru. But if you go backwards, you'll see that every single day, including today, we have been receiving defectors from various political parties. Because as you know, UDA is a new party. It's not a parliamentary party in terms of definition, because it's new. It is, we formed it after the 2017 general elections. But in terms of the membership of the elected leaders subscribing to the UDA, the UDA, we have around 155 members of parliament. That is the National Assembly and the Senate. The other party that is second is actually ODM, at a distant second, at around 70 members. The third one is the remnants of our former party, the Red Party, that is not just withering, but almost non-existent. They are now 23, and of course many of them are scampering for safety, and will be receiving many more in the coming days.
Okay, so
one of the reasons, yes, Jeff, people are coming to our party UDA is because of our conscience policy of the bottom-up, well exemplified, easy to understand, and practical, where we want to move as a Kenyan people by including everyone to be participants of the growth of our economy. So Anne Waiguru, as of course I believe, read the ideology of UDA, understood it, but more importantly, they say politics is local. When they say politics is local, what that means is that, Jeff, the most optimistic people I know in this world are politicians, but also in the same measure, the most calculating. Most of the politicians, they may fail because of other reasons, but none, or maybe a very small proportion, would fail by neglecting the direction that the people are going. So Anne Waiguru, I'm sure she saw the direction of the people of Kirinyaga and made the right decision. But lastly also, as you know, Jeff, prior to the 20th of October, that is the Mashujaa Day, the current PS of Interior, you know his home area is Kirinyaga. Mm-hmm. He had spent around 90 days in Kirinyaga, mopping up and trying, of course, to mobilize, prepare the ground for the politics of the in support of the party he leans towards. And it is so sure, and it's so every Kenyan knows that he was preparing the ground, of course, for the humiliation of the deputy president, because we have the intel from the ground ourselves. He was trying to prepare that national day to be a day of settling political scores. Most of the people had been mobilized. Some of them, majority, were paid. They were given cards to get to Anguru Stadium. Of course, he thought, based on the allegiance to him and the party he supports currently. Fortunately, our people are business people, Jeff, and you know that. Yourself included. Hatuwezi wacha pesa. They took the money. They got into Anguru Stadium, but hauwezi fugia kitu yuko roho ya mtu.
Okay.
You cannot be able to restrict the people from getting out what is in their hearts. Okay, and therefore the people were very jubilant when they saw the person they support.
Let me ask
and from there, I am sure it was a clear message to every politician.
Okay, Mheshimiwa, look, Governor Waiguru was considered very close to the president. We all know that, right?
Yes.
Is this a move she will live to regret, or what are your thoughts about her moving, shifting?
Well, I can assure you, I was in Wanguru Stadium. And from the arrangement that was there, the crowd that did cheer the governor of Kirinyaga was somewhere in the far right corner, which was barely audible to convince anybody that they were excited about Governor Waiguru. Now, unless she wishes to ride on the crowd of the deputy president, which was the rest of the stadium, then that one we can understand. But for Governor Waiguru to state that she's following the people, I'm sure when those people came, whoever is their leader, it is not Governor Waiguru. I want to assure you of that. Even the people who are receiving her, they are not receiving her to salvage her. They are picking on her because they know her vulnerability, and being vulnerable just to lead her into a slaughterhouse. Because this is an investment of the last 4 years, let's say, by the governor and her competitors. So they have invested heavily in the Tanga movement. They have not been investing in that movement to just pass it on to Governor Waiguru. So my belief, a good leader of their name will never follow a mob. You lead people into the direction you feel they should go as a leader. I have rarely heard of people who say, oh, let me follow my people. When you hear a leader saying that, that's a hypocrite. They know what they are doing. They are leading the people, but they want to pretend that these people are behind me. That's what a leader does. I can tell you, I have been in politics, as you are saying, long enough. At a time when I attempted in '92, when the DP wave was serious in Meru, and trying to convince them to vote for DP, they just said, no, you just watch your mouth. So we went ahead, they voted for actually Kanu in my place, when the rest of the Meru and the Mount Kenya were voting for DP. The same thing happened in 2002, when the entire wave in Meru was a NAC. They voted for myself to parliament and Uhuru Kenyatta in Kanu. So I can tell you, when you hear somebody saying I'm following my people, that's the face nasura ya hypocrite, number one.
Mheshimiwa, let me ask you this. Now that Waiguru has moved over to UDA, she has come into, you call it the party, where there's another strong contender who has already declared her intention to run for governor. We're talking about Ngirichi.
Yeah.
She's already announced. So who's going to be the UDA flag bearer in your thinking?
Allow me first to respond to my colleague Maoka Maore in terms of that the leader who actually dictates the direction that people take.
I have not dictate.
I don't blame.
Yes, put my hand in my mouth.
I don't.
You lead, people follow, not to dictate.
You lead?
Yes.
I don't blame him because, as you heard, he joined politics some way time back.
When you were in class 7.
And in 1997, only KBC was the only source of information for many folks in our villages. And therefore, the leader would only listen to KBC because only the leaders owned a TV and probably even a radio, and they would take the information to the people. Unfortunately, the era in which we are living in and we are being elected, the people are much way ahead of us. Many times I go to my village and I get my grandmother already knows what is happening in Nairobi by the time I arrive there. And therefore, the current dispensation and the period at which we are living in, I think the roles have changed. You have to work together with your people, and you cannot work in isolation. Number two, I think that is the difference between, and the reason why we left our former party. Because when we say we believe in bottom-up and not trickle-down, not just a matter of economic ideology. It is also a political ideology. Political ideology where it is not the voice of the leader that takes precedence. You start from the bottom. And by the way, our constitution, that is why it is very present in terms of its articulation of issues, talks about public participation. Even in our Maendeleo, Jeff, we do public participation because we want to get the needs from the ground, not dictated by the leader. Okay, to go to the question that you...
Are you going to answer my question?
Yeah, to go to the issue that you raised about Governor Waiguru and my good friend, Girishi. There are even other candidates, Jeff, maybe you are not aware, even in the same race. Gunning for the UDA ticket.
Yeah, but those two, those two will be the leading ones. You know this.
I want to tell you this, Jeff. Any serious political party, and especially a serious political party like UDA, have got something called nominations before elections. Nomination is where we tell the people, nominate the serious candidate and the candidate you want for them to become your governor. Including in Kiharo, Jeff. I'm not alone in UDA. I've been in Taga, so to say, for the longest time. I've been arrested because of my affiliation. But we are not grandstanding and saying that because we are given so much, then we have to receive so much. We are a democratic party. And by the way, Jeff,
so you're saying there'll be no direct nominations?
You may not be knowing the definition of UDA. It is United Democratic. Not the other one, Democratic of Origin, that there is no democracy in there. UDA is a democratic party. And you can take this to the bank. Even our party leader, William Ruto, does not have the ticket. The tickets of UDA will be given by the people of Kenya through credible and fair nominations.
You're laughing. Why are you laughing?
No, you know why I'm laughing with my brother here. There are some things you say for the purposes in political science 101. They call it demagoguery. You just talk straight the things you think people want to hear. If you say bottom-ups is a political theory, maybe it's an economic theory. We know Adam Smith, 1776, he wrote The Wealth of Nations. In between, there have been other political theorists, from Thomas Sankara, in between to Lenin, to Friedrich Engels, Karl Marx. Somewhere in between 1776 and today, they have not brought a booklet with a paragraph that can describe political theory or philosophy of governance that you can call this bottom-up. Because when you call a mob and they excite it, in the evening, after you have excited that mob, what answers do you have, specifically economic theory? Because if you talk about helping Mama Mboga, today Youth Fund, if you take 2, 3, 4, 5 youths, they register a group. In Mayegembe North, in 2019, I brought the Youth Fund CEO there. We have 300 groups, 100,000 each, 30 million. So those are the kind of things you can talk, economic policies which are already in place. So in theory, you know, it's good to get a sentence or two, not where you come and you want to excite me or excite the audience that you have a theory which you want to govern with. When he says our polity, we began it 4 years ago. 4 years ago, 2017, it is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta who was elected on in Jubilee to implement a mandate he was given. Now, a splinter group started within Jubilee into 2022 and beyond. Yet we are in between 2017 and 2022. So surely if we are talking about honest politics, you go and implement a mandate you've been given. When that time expires, you have no problem. And because I remember when we met somewhere in Sagana in January, my brother didn't want to come. 29th January, the president met the youth. Wakamwambia, lakini tulisikia maneno yako ya 10 yangu na 10 ya your brother. What is happening? The president was very categorical. Akasema mimi sina shida. Those things, if they happened there, yangu 10 iliisha lini. So when he says they began this movement in 2017, it's when, 2018 actually, January after the handshake, is when they actually caved off. And if you agree on a caving off, then we begin a debate, then we are having a sober debate.
Mheshimiwa, bottom up, you heard what he said?
Yeah, I heard. First of all, Jeff, it's good for us to get the facts right. Adam Smith was not a political philosopher. He was an economist.
And you're an economist too.
And therefore, whatever he brought forth was an economic theory, not as being articulated by Mheshimiwa Maoka Maore as a political theory. And if Maoka Maore has studied political science and even political economy, he should be knowing that political theories, and especially political economy, is dynamic in nature. Because the era at which we live in now is different from last century. It is also different from the other century. And it therefore keeps evolving. It keeps evolving, and that is why we have so many economists, and none is absolutely right. There is no economist in the world who is absolutely right or wrong, because it depends on the situation. Coming to the bottom up, you know, it's good for when you call us to this kind of show. I have come to articulate what I believe in and what I subscribe to. And it does not augur well for a leader to just keep talking about other people's ideology. Because when you give us an opportunity, I'll be articulating bottom up. Maoka Maore can articulate their economic model. What we mean with bottom up, Jeff, is that for the longest time in our politics, majority of the citizens of Kenya have only just been passive participants in our economy. Bottom up, we talk about having everyone on board to become an active participant in our economy. And there are various issues that we are looking at. Number one, Kenya is predominantly an agrarian economy, where most of the jobs are actually based in agriculture, either in terms of raw agriculture, value addition, etc. We are looking at adding value into that, adding productivity in terms of we can change crops, adding productivity by helping our farmers through inputs, through value addition, through markets, and such other things. We are also talking about the informal sector. Jeff, and I told you that the other time I was here, but it's good for me to repeat for emphasis. If you go to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, especially last year, they listed that there are around 15 million hustlers. I would call them so, people in the informal sector. When you talk about 15 million Kenyans, Jeff, 6 million of them are licensed. They are informal sector, informal, so to say, because they are licensed, the government knows they are there, they pay taxes. And they have a surplus of around 50,000 shillings per month. The other 9 million, Jeff, have got a surplus of only around 3,000. Most of them are unlicensed. When we talk about bottom up, we mean that we can uplift the 9 million Kenyans, and especially if you only do that one thing, uplift the 9 million to come to the bracket of the other 6 million, we debase our economy by 40%, Jeff. Our economy moves from 100 billion US dollars to just around shy of 150 billion US dollars. That is what we are calling bottom up, uplifting everyone, moving together as an economy, in contradiction to the current status of affairs. In Kenya now, every time, Jeff, if you look at the inequalities in Kenya, they are simply because our economy has been inverted. Pesa inatoka juu, trickling down to the people. Of course, majority of that money never reaches the intended destination. And therefore, Jeff, we have a conscious economic model. And I think Mheshimiwa has got time to tell us what the alternative they have. And when you give me time, of course, I'll continue giving more facts on our model.
For Mheshimiwa response, real quick, but you've been part of that government that you call trickle down. Have you not?
Jeff, you know, sometimes it's good for you to talk like a person who lives in Kenya. I am sure you don't come from the moon to host JKL. You live here in Kenya. You know that the government that we elected is not the government ruling our country. And by the way, when you see even the likes of Junet Mohammed telling a cabinet secretary that the government they want to form, that will be seeing it because maybe it was symbolic using Mutahi to many of the Kenyans out here, that will be seeing that government in view sasa, Jeff. It is the issue of inclusion that you are talking about, that we want to build a country where everyone is included, Jeff, where no one is left out, and so that we continue running away from the kind of diabolic sentiments that we saw from the likes of Junet.
Okay, Mheshimiwa, look, you all are part of the government. You have been.
And by the way, Jeff, but sorry, because I didn't answer your question correctly. I was talking about Junet and what he said.
Yeah. For the most part, he said he was misquoted. Junet is
I'll give
here
you time,
to defend himself.
I never answered the question.
Hold on, he's not here to defend himself, so you can address him in your parliament or wherever you see him next.
Okay.
But let me ask you this, weren't you a part of this government?
Yes, but the problem we are facing in Kenya today, the time he is saying that we got into leadership, at least that time, we and the people who are focused about something called patriotism and some little ethics in sticking to what you are in. If you read even our political parties act, when you are in a party, because they are the ones who showed us in 2018 that it is possible to run away from your party and fight it. So by the time we were resisting, when they were calling at Kielewek and then they went into Tangatanga, we were actually trying to sustain the government using some members of the opposition. What Junet said, they have made it now something to help them incite and excite people, but I can assure you that is not here nor there. When you hear somebody going to Nyanza and he says, when we take, surely if you take the government, if Raila takes over, it will go to Nyanza. Just like when they take the government, they will be trooping to Sugoi. So, hii maneno ya Sugoi na Nyanza is all the same. Only that they think by using that thing of Junet, there is a section maybe of Mount Kenya. They can excite or incite against both the president and maybe Raila Odinga. 1. 2, when he says about the bottom up, then he is worried that we are debating it. It is important to interrogate a new idea who has come. In the unlikely or unfortunate event they were to be in power, we know what we are getting into. You know, you never know. You cannot be debated if you are a nobody. If an elephant steps on you and a fly, you will tell the difference. So these guys, they are serious contenders. That's why when they say bottom up, it is some of us who have a duty to look at the country on the face and tell them this is a very dangerous thing. Don't touch it. We are used to running affairs this way. Now, if they can manage to install enough rebellion, that is politics.
And yet they say,
yes,
kwa ground,
yeah,
mambo ni different.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If they can manage to do that, but which ground are we talking about? If you just go and look for every MP, you go and carry your cross in your constituency. Your ratings is per your polling station, per ward, per constituency. It is not a mob.
But let's face it, Deputy President William Ruto is drawing the crowds. He is drawing wherever he goes.
I have not created doubt on that. I have not created that doubt. The question is where? They targeted Mount Kenya for the last 7 years. That the people who wanted to be near the president could not be allowed. They have to go through the deputy president. Those were leaders from Mount Kenya. A few of us who resisted, during the nominations, they saw fire. Some of us survived. Now, when you have been there, and I will give a quick example of what happened. 2007, when Raila Odinga went to Eldoret looking for support of the Kalejins or the voters in the Rift Valley, aliambiwa wacha kutusumbua. Follow huyu, we are going to be behind you. And for sure, they did it to a man. 2013 come. When Uhuru did a handshake with Ruto, he went to Nakuru and the other place where they were negotiating. He was told the same thing. Don't bother yourself, follow him, then we will be able to do the job. And they actually did it. But immediately after 2017 election, the height of bad manners began, where he went through the nominations, entered into the bedroom of Mount Kenya, picked on those who would be nominated and those who would be in parliament so that he can start a 2022 choir. Now that choir, he has been using it very perfectly until he has the guts of insulting the president last week and saying, wow, ni matapeli. But when he goes to Kirinyaga, it speaks different. When he goes to the other day, he says, Uhuru showed me how to climb Mount Kenya. It was very much sarcastic and mockery. He was not shown. Because it is not Uhuru who went to Rift Valley to look for votes for himself. He went through Ruto. But Ruto never wanted, it's good to conclude perfectly. It is him who wanted to come into the mountain, incite the youth and the mobs there, mess up almost everybody who was a credible leader. Just name them. You don't have any experience of them from Mount Kenya, emanating from 2017 elections. So that kind of scenario is what my brother here is celebrating. That they have gone, they have gotten now to the mountain, they know the map of the mountain, they don't need Uhuru Kenyatta.
Mheshimiwa. Jeff, allow me, you cut me short before I concluded my point. The reason why why I was giving the analogy of Junet, I was trying to explain the fact that even when you talk about whether we are in government or not, because you asked that we are in, or you post that, but we are in that government. I want to tell you that the government that we elected in 2017 is not the government ruling now. That is why we have the likes of Akina Junet with the audacity of even telling a cabinet minister, as they were politicking in Kisii, that even the government they are seeking will be seeing it in Viusasa. Jeff, if you live in Kenya, you know for sure that the deputy president you elected in 2017 does not have roles. The roles have been taken by, of course, a cabinet secretary, and some roles have been taken by the former prime minister or the opposition leader. And therefore, you cannot conveniently come and tell us we are in government, and for sure you know, for example, myself and many of our colleagues, we were in committees that would help the government policy move forward. But of course, that was decimated by the handshake and the entire shenanigans around what handshake had. And therefore, Jeff, strictly to say, we are not in government. And those who are in it should carry the whole baggage of that government.
Real quick, I had a train of thought which you just destroyed right away.
Maybe it's about the deputy president.
Yeah, there's ground.
Yeah.
When they say kwa ground, mambo ni different.
Yeah.
And the deputy president did say, the quote, yeah. The president taught him how to climb the mountain.
Jeff, in 2012 or prior to 2012, President Uhuru Kenyatta decided to vie to be president of Kenya. He looked around for somebody that would deputize him and especially bring the political clout he needed then. The person he found suitable is none other than William Ruto. They came together, they became brothers who would wear the same shirts, and to be fair to them, they tried to do some work in the first term. Most of the roads that the president read in the 20th of this month were actually built in the first term. Most of the projects were actually done in the first term. But forget about the projects, the character of the men. The character of the men that Mauka Maore is talking about has been the same since he was MP for Eldoret North. He's been going to churches, he's been going to Harambes, and maybe those are the characters and those are the qualities that actually endeared Uhuru Kenyatta to get William Ruto to be his deputy. Unfortunately, after 2017, it seems there was already a predetermined plan to undermine the deputy president. It seems it was calculated way before. Because Jeff, when we went for our first parliamentary group meeting, the president we actually elected, for me, was very different from the person we thought he was. And it was the first day that we met as elected leaders. And that is a clear, that cements the fact that the president had already long decided that the second term will be different. But Jeff, honestly speaking, how do you want to turn the character of a man just because he's seeking to be president of Kenya? William Ruto, as he keeps saying, was a very good man to Mauka Maore and the others in 2013. He was exemplary when he helped the president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, get re-elected in 2017. All of a sudden, he becomes a very bad man when he wants to lead the country. And we need to be fair to each other as politicians. There is no politician who doesn't have ambition. And again, as I've said there before, this has been his character. This has been the motto of the man ever since he got into politics. And therefore, all these other sideshows around disrespect, blah, 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 are neither here nor there. There is no person who has been loyal to his boss than the deputy president. It is there for everyone to see. It is actually the president who betrayed his deputy. And that is why majority of the people who were actually in Jubilee, we could not live in that deceit. Majority of us. Ask yourself, Jeff, we can come here and pretend to be smart. Out of the people who were elected on the Jubilee ticket, how comes currently, as I said, and statistics don't lie, currently we are enjoying around support of 155 members of parliament. The remnants are just around 23 because people can see the facts.
Are you calling him remnants?
No, it's a good name to get, but the best thing to describe him, when he is allergic to history from his overtones, he has some allergy to history. History says, in the last, let's say, 10 elections in this country, every time you have gone into an election, 70% of the members of parliament go home.
10 elections
So
is like since
if you have
independence.
100 MPs, you will have 70% of baggage with you. Because I'm telling you, when he says ground is different, he means for the other people, but he should check on his colleagues.
All right.
The reason being...
Gentlemen, I have to take a break.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I have to take a break. It's before 11, real quick, a real break, come back and talk about also voter registration. Why is it so low? You say the youth are the future. How come they're not going for
They're
their...
not excited about...
Why aren't they excited? Maybe you have an answer. And also going forward, what went wrong between these two? What went wrong? Like you said, there was so much bromance.
Yes.
Same shirts, same ties. What went wrong? Let's take a break. Keep tweeting, folks. We're having a candid conversation with KR Member of Parliament Didi Nyoro and also Igembe North Member of Parliament Malcolm Baore. He's been in Parliament for like 30 years with a 10-year break in between.